If your MLOps setup feels harder than the model itself, you are not alone. AWS just made a very specific part of ModelOps dramatically simpler. SageMaker AI projects can now use S3-based templates instead of the older service catalog-heavy approach. The shift sounds small, but it removes real operational friction. Fewer moving parts for admins, faster self-service for data scientists, and cleaner lifecycle control using S3 features you already trust. This is an explainer, not hype. We will break down what SageMaker AI projects are, what exactly changed with S3-based templates, how the tags and permissions work, and a real GitHub Actions-driven MLOps pattern you can replicate. First, quick baseline. SageMaker AI projects are structured, reusable project blueprints. They can provision things like CI/CD pipelines, model registries, deployment configs, and other ModelOps components inside SageMaker AI. The goal is standardization. Instead of every team reinventing the same stack, you encode best practices into a template so projects start consistent. Same naming, same tags, same security posture, and the same path from training to deployment. Historically, the pain point was the template distribution mechanism. The previous approach depended on AWS Service Catalog, which meant setting up portfolios, products, and permissions before anyone could even click New Project. Now the new capability, S3-based templates. Administrators can store CloudFormation templates directly in Amazon S3 and manage lifecycle with S3 versioning, lifecycle policies, and even cross-region replication. That has real ModelOps implications. You get an immutable history of template evolution, easier audits, and practical rollbacks when a template change breaks provisioning. AWS also positions S3 as the distribution layer across regions where SageMaker AI projects is supported. And for cross-account sharing, you lean on bucket policies and cross-account access controls. And migration is not a big bang rewrite. In Studio, S3 templates and service catalog templates show up in separate tabs, so orgs can introduce S3 templates gradually without breaking existing workflows. So what do you actually configure? There are a few specifics you cannot skip. 1. Your SageMaker domain must include a tag that points to your template bucket location. SageMaker project S3 templates location set to S3/bucket/prefix/. 2. Each template file you upload must be a valid CloudFormation YAML, and it must be tagged so Studio can show it. The key is SageMaker Studio visibility equals true. 3. Access and browser plumbing. You grant read access in the S3 bucket policy to the SageMaker execution roles that need discovery, and you enable cores on the bucket so SageMaker AI projects can access the templates. Once a user launches a project from an S3 template, SageMaker AI kicks off a CloudFormation stack behind the scenes to provision whatever resources your template defines. That is the core mechanic. Lifecycle management is also built in. In Studio, users can update a project by changing parameters or even the template URL, triggering a CloudFormation stack update that is validated before execution. Deleting a project removes the CloudFormation provisioned resources tied to that project. But AWS also calls out cleanup you may need to do manually if they are still hanging around, like repos, pipelines, model groups, and endpoints. Now the fun part, the sample enterprise use case. Many teams live in GitHub and want GitHub Actions for CI/CD, but also want SageMaker for pipelines, training, and governance. The template approach provisions the integration for you. The workflow described is commit-driven. A code commit in GitHub triggers the automation path, and a SageMaker pipeline orchestrates the standardized steps: pre-processing, training, evaluation, and registration. Governance is handled through SageMaker Model Registry, with model versioning and lineage, plus approval steps. The template supports automated staging after approval signals, with a manual approval gate for promoting to production. Under the hood, the architecture leans on event-driven building blocks like Amazon Event Bridge and AWS Lambda, and it highlights secure credential management using AWS Secrets Manager, plus consistent tagging and naming standards. When a data scientist launches this in SageMaker Studio, they select the organization template, then they must enter project-specific details. One field matters a lot: the role ARN for the Amazon SageMaker Project's launch role created during setup. AWS is very explicit on the security model. Use the Amazon SageMaker Project's launch role, not your personal SageMaker execution role. The launch role is the provisioning intermediary with permissions to create roles, buckets, and pipelines. This separation matters because without launch roles, every ML practitioner would need broad IAM permissions to create things like code pipeline and code build projects and S3 buckets directly. With a launch role, their only requirement is permission to assume it. After you submit the project configuration, the template stands up two automated ModelOps workflows, one for model building and one for model deployment. Together, they form CI/CD for ML with standardized steps and gated promotion. How does this compare to industry alternatives? In Azure, a similar pattern is Azure Machine Learning with pipelines and CI/CD via GitHub Actions or Azure DevOps. In Google Cloud, Vertex AI pipelines plus Cloud Build and Artifact Registry can play the same role. The key difference here is how AWS is simplifying the template distribution layer for SageMaker projects using plain S3. So what is the practical win? Less administrative overhead versus configuring service catalog. More predictable governance because templates are versioned and controlled, and a faster on-ramp for teams. One click to provision a known good MLOps environment. One caution, cost and cleanup. AWS notes that deployed resources can incur ongoing charges. If you are done, delete the project in Studio and also check for leftover components like Git repos, pipelines, model groups, and endpoints. Bottom line, S3-based templates turn SageMaker AI projects into something closer to infrastructure as code with guardrails. Admins define and govern the scaffolding. ML engineers and data scientists get self-service projects that are consistent, auditable, and production-minded from day one.